The 9 Years podcast is brought to you in association with Season Master and the Window Workshop.
Let's get ready to rumble. Let's get ready, let's get ready, let's get ready to rumble. Watch us wreck the mic, watch us wreck the mic, watch us wreck the mic. Psych. Let's get ready, let's get ready, let's get ready, let's get ready, let's get ready to rumble. Straight up proving, we can get you grooving. This track's booming, it ain't no hype. Watch us wreck the mic, watch us wreck the mic, watch us wreck the mic. Psych. Let's get ready.
All right, everybody, welcome to episode 342 of the 9 Years podcast. Yes, of course, we are ready to rumble because it is the big game with Newcastle coming up. I don't want to hear about Bradford, is it? Who's even heard of Bradford? No one even knows where that is, okay? It's all about Newcastle. That's all we want to talk about this week. Oh yeah, maybe beating the franchise 3-0 as well might come into it somewhere along the line. But thank you very much for downloading the show this week. I am Nick Draper. I am joined as always by the face of the BBC Sport website, Mr. Stuart Deacons, and alongside talk of smashing the franchise. We'll also be talking some Don's Trust issues and a very interesting interview with Graeme Price on the official podcast. Stu, we must say at this juncture that we have been officially, what's the word I'm looking for? Changed is the word, but
replaced.
Not replaced, no, not by. We were never official. No, I was going to say we've almost been. Our status has changed basically. Previously, we were a 104% unofficial podcast. We are now 106.58% unofficial. Okay, so just clarifying that for everybody, and because of that, we will talk about the official podcast, which actually did have an interview with Graeme Price. That's all to come. My father was a John Joe toolmaker, another version of that coming up. We'll look ahead to the game with Bradford. Yes, absolutely. We do have a league game we can get past, or we have to get past before we concentrate on the big, exciting cup tie at Plough Lane on Tuesday. But Stu, this is what everyone wants to talk about this week. There's only one thing really people want to talk about this week, and it is the fact we battered the franchise 3-0 at Plough Lane. And last season, we beat them 1-0 with a 94th minute winner. That was an amazing, incredible moment. We discussed it last week with Lee Brown. Thank you, everyone, for your comments on that interview, by the way. Much appreciated. This one, the thing is, Stu, all right, okay, there's lots of things to talk about this game. We knew going into it we couldn't recreate what happened the season before. It was never going to happen again. But you know what? We weren't blooming far off it with this one, okay? If there was to be the perfect sequel, it was smashing them. And that's exactly what we did.
Yep.
How good did it feel for you?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, wasn't it? I went into the game. I didn't say too much about my feelings, but I was reasonably confident. I felt we were favourites going into it. I know a few people, I think even you said to me, I don't know, it was one of those things of not getting too excited, but I felt we were favourites. I'd watched, with the great Sky TV deal now, I think I've watched so many League Two games. It's unreal, and it's only, 6 games in to the season. But I'd watched a bit of them. I've seen them get beat by Salford, and Salford did very much what we did in the first 30 minutes, literally man for man. Stopped them playing out from the back, and they didn't have a plan B, which is strange for them because normally a lot of teams try and stop them playing. But this season they just haven't. They went long, and I just felt for the first half hour we were immense, and I think we probably won the game. I know we got 2 late goals, but I think we've done a lot of work in that first half an hour to really put them under pressure. And if we'd probably gone in at half time a couple up, I don't think that would have flattered us.
You beaten me to the punch history because I was going to ask you, was the game won in that first 20 minutes? Because yes, the gloss was put on in injury time, but I felt the way we started the match and got the early goal, that was the key point. I think that was it. That's what won us the game.
Yeah, I think they realised exactly what they were in for. Like, and we've done it before sometime when we played them, we haven't really got out of the blocks quickly and we've allowed them to dictate. And if you do that, they're going to pass the ball for fun. But we got amongst them early. So I don't know about you, but I felt 5 minutes before kickoff, the atmosphere was just raising and really good, especially for half 12 kickoff. And we managed to make sure we kept that. So we didn't have a lull. I thought Omar was outstanding in that first 10, 15 minutes. Like, if you're going to have someone that's going to batter them and not let them win and not let them take over, as Lyle used to say, but it was like we're in this. He was brilliant for the first 10, 15 minutes. And obviously Miles had that chance, which was a really, really good save by their keeper.
Yeah.
Omar had a shot, and then we obviously had the indirect free kick. But the indirect free kick wasn't for them mucking up. It was just simply the amount of pressure we had on them. They just couldn't get out.
Yeah, they really couldn't handle us in that first 15, 20 minutes. Before the game, as you say, Stu, going into it, I was a little bit worried for a couple of reasons. One, it's the first time that we've played them, and there was genuine excitement. The overwhelming feeling going into it, I felt from our supporters, was one of actually looking forward to this fixture, which has never happened before. It's been
True.
It's been dreading it. It's been just get it over with. This time, people were actually chomping at the bit for the reasons you say, Stu, because it felt like everyone thought for the first time we were going in it in the ascendancy and as expected to win. And that worried me slightly for a couple of reasons. One, because I'm just used to watching Wimbledon. When we build games up historically in my time supporting Wimbledon, going back to the old WFC days, every time we got to a cup semi-final, we got to Fulham away, we got to Wickham away, these games where everyone was really excited, always ended in a massive letdown. But I was also cautious because Milton Keynes, despite their dodgy start to the season, we got a good squad of players. And also, incredibly, they have yet to score away from home this season. So my law of averages thing was thinking, well, they've got to score away from home at some point. Now, my caveat, I think actually, Stu, if I do some quick maths, actually, I think that's now 4 away games they've played this season. They've scored none and conceded 11. But I was thinking my law of averages, I've always said, Stu, that it doesn't apply in a couple of circumstances. One is when a team is really, really, really good and is going to walk the league, or really, really, really bad and is in big trouble. And the third one is when a manager is probably on his way out. And we might come into that in a minute. But yes, I was anxious for those reasons. But as you say, the way we started the game and the way that we approach the fixture now feels a lot different to what's gone before.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's a lot of elements in that. I think the club have got on top of the message. I think the build up to it was right. They got the build up just before, so we didn't go mad about it. The build up was probably a couple of days before. Some really good stuff on that. Hey, look, I think when you go in with the form we've got, home form's really good. Obviously, our cup form's good. I think I think the mad thing is actually right. It's how you respond from big wins. So, what I mean by that, going into the Ipswich game, we had Cheltenham. We won that game 1-0 comfortably. Could have been a lot more than that. Now, normally it's like, the game before, people don't want to get injured and all that sort of thing. So you sometimes have that. And then the game after it, which sometimes is always a bit more, especially when, no disrespect to Fleetwood, but Fleetwood coming to town when you've just had a really big win against a newly Premier League team. Those are the games that can do you. They're the games that if you're not a good team, you end up not getting much from it. So I think there was a lot of stuff that people have gone, do you know what, we've probably ticked a few boxes. And I know it's really strange to say that when we're only, hey, look, we've just hit the beginning of September, haven't we? Or middle of September, crikey, it feels like. But all the tests that have so far come up, we've passed with flying colours. So I think you go into the Milton Keynes game going, do you know what? They're coming to our backyard and we're not scared of them because actually we think, and scared by not by what the club is, but they're normally very good technical players.
Yeah.
But they were technical. What I felt, they were individuals rather than a team. They got some good players. There's no doubt about that. But there was many players that I actually forgot that were playing for them, and one of them was probably had a double-barreled name.
Well, possibly. I agree with you. I think they're perhaps. Hey, look, Lee Brown said last week this idea that we'd been too nice and too soft, not just in this fixture and the fixture he referenced at Milton Keynes last season, but in general as a squad, as a club. I think that has flipped. I'd say I'm not ever going to call Milton Keynes nice, but you know what I mean? It's soft, certainly. And I think, you probably had a team of individuals as opposed to a collective at the moment for there. And I was surprised. I thought, given what happened last season, I was expecting more fight and more of a battle actually from them. But actually, every second ball, every aerial duel, every tackle, every second ball, we won absolutely everything. After that initial bit in the first half and we got the goal, it did then descend into what we'd come used to when playing against them. In fact, that they would dominate possession and we would drop deep, and that worried me a little bit. But I must say, I did think Evans in that spell, everything seemed to be going through him.
Yeah, I agree.
Helped a little bit by the injury to Jake Reeves.
Yeah, I agree. The thing is their customers showed more fight in the first 20 minutes than their team did in the whole 90. Let's be fair. They gave our stewards a really good sort of test of how to just pick up and chuck people out of the ground, which was nice because they didn't fill their allocation and they had less people in the ground than they did when they first started. Yeah, do you know what? I think the thing is I think with them, you can't press a team as we did for 45 minutes. I don't think you can do that. So I think there's always going to be a case, probably half an hour of going, right, reserve energy, drop a little bit, do a bit of a low block.
No, what have you said? What have you said? What have you said? A little bit of defending deep. There we go.
Defending deep.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the way we play, like our fullbacks can get out. Interesting decision was to play James Tilley.
Yeah.
Over Furlong, and I think we sort of consensus was that we felt we wanted to push their right winger back. And I think Furlong's to be honest with you, I don't think there's much to choose between Furlong and James Tilley going forward. I think there is defensively, James Furlong is a very good defender. But I think it was just a choice of we pushed them back, and then you've got Josh Nerville the other side. So we always had a way of getting out. And then I think the three centre halves, if we're honest, how many chances did they really have? Every time they knocked a ball long, we dealt with it. Anytime they tried to knock a ball into feet, Joe Lewis was coming out and pressing. I thought him and Riley Harbottle worked really well together. And you know what? Even though we were under pressure, I get what you're saying. We were under pressure and everything was going through Lemonhay, but with no tempo. Every time he got the ball, he was either back to goal or the player being slowed down. So actually, when you slow the ball down, if we keep our defensive shape, we're fine. And defensively, there's 3 clean sheets in the league. They win you games. You know, they win you. And I think we sometimes forget how good Joe Lewis is. I think we've become a little bit complacent. And what I mean by that is what he does, we just go, well, that's what he does. But when he joined us, that was something we didn't have. You know, he leads by Riley Harbottle's come in and literally just slotted in comfortably.
Yeah, effortlessly. Yeah.
And Isaac Ogundier, what a season he's having to start off with.
Isaac is fast becoming my favourite AFC Wimbledon player, right? Because the level of improvement I've seen from him defensively, the fact that he's looked really more comfortable on the ball as well, but also for his grin every time we score and beat the franchise, because he loves it. He loves it.
But that's what you get when you come up through the ranks. You know, it's very difficult for players to get it when they come in, and we try the best to do that. But you haven't got Isaac, Husbyler, they know it, don't they? Do you know what I mean? They know that side of it. But I think defensively, that's where our strength is. I know we keep talking about our 4 forwards and stuff like that, but without that base behind them. And I think that's what it showed. And the 3-0 win, I don't think flattered us over the whole way of it. But I just think, do you know what? If you're going to finish games against them, as we have in the last 2 games, wow, the feeling. And do you know what? I think the thing is, yes, right. As much as we say we don't want to play them and stuff like that, there is a certain satisfaction.
Oh yeah.
Of literally going, get off our ground with head between your legs or whatever, and just go.
Head between your legs.
Yeah, well, they could put a head between it. And from what I understand, their team coach literally sped out of Plough Lane. On Saturday, and just like their players did off the pitch.
Do you know what? You mentioned that about playing them, and we say, yes, we don't want to play with them, and it's horrible playing them and things like that. The thing is, yes, obviously, when you look at what happened in the history and everything, we win that. Okay, there's no doubt about that. We've already proven that, and we have our ascent through the leagues to reclaim our league place. We've finished above them in the Football League. We've beaten them now regularly. But you need those visceral moments where you actually get to actually see it and witness it. Like, yes, okay, everything we've done is fantastic as a football club, like I say, but you sort of want to ball that up into, as I say, those visceral moments, and that's what you get when you actually play them. You don't get these moments otherwise. Okay, there's not a moment that everyone's all in the stadium together celebrating together. It only happens when you play them. So it is a little bit of, and I do the mood has changed with this fixture. All right, we now look forward to it. We're now the ones in the ascendancy with it, and we don't hate it anymore, I don't think.
No, and do you know what the interesting development could be from this? And I heard a few people chatting about that, is the away fixture.
Exactly.
Because hey, look, let's be fair. I think we take more than they bring to our place. It's just that they've got an empty stadium they can't fill. But I think if we are still in around promotion places, around when we go to their place, I'm probably at a stage now where I'm thinking, I think it's better to get behind the team
Mm.
than it is to not. Now, I don't like going to their place. However, we can't now resolve our home form against them and not give them a game at their place.
Yeah.
I think that's it. I think that's probably the next step. Because whether we like it or not, they are going to be, when they're in our league, they are going to be a team. If we want to get out of this league, that we're going to have to sharp against. Because no matter where they are, they're not going to stay down there.
No.
They are going to be, we've beaten a promotion challenger, and we're right up in the mix. And every time I look at the league table, it's just I smile. Even though we were top of the league and we all made, look, we may hate the 12:30 kickoffs, right? But at least we were top of the league for a little while.
Yeah, for a couple of hours we were indeed top of the league. So you got to enjoy it when it comes. The away fixture, I'm with you, Stu. Well, here, look, we took what, 3,000, 3,500 the first time we played there, the first meeting in the
Yeah,
FA Cup. So it's not like we haven't done it before. I still very much of the opinion that anyone that has said that they will never go and they refuse to go and pay money to go and stand inside that stadium, absolutely applaud that stance. And
yeah,
I wouldn't argue with that or try and change anyone's mind on that. But I also do know there's a lot of people that have, we've gone 1 year and maybe not the next year and sort of mixed and match and stuff like that. I'd say if you've been there or if you haven't been there and you've got no real issue doing it, let's make January. I'll tell you for why. No team in this fixture have done the double over the other yet. We've not won at Milton Keynes in the league. So imagine in January, if we can get however many thousand to go up there and make it a real event for us, I think that could be a great day. And that would write Johnny Jackson into the history books. Neil Ardley was the first manager to win at Milton Keynes, the first manager to beat Milton Keynes in the league. Johnny Jackson could be the first manager to beat them at Plough Lane and the first manager to do the double over them and get a league victory there. So we could make a real event of this one. And I think hey, look, I'm not saying I'm looking forward to it, but I'm
no,
kind of
no.
looking forward to it.
Do you know what's interesting? I think it's also important to speak about Johnny. He's got 2 wins against them.
Mm.
I think that's probably the most wins a single manager has had against
Well,
them.
I think it's only him and Neil Ardley that have actually beaten them, and I think they're on
Yeah,
two wins apiece.
yeah. And that game normally can define you as a manager. How stupid it sounds, but it
Mm.
can.
Yeah.
You have to say the way he's conducted himself beforehand, after the game, like, we interviewed him afterwards and he was just literally buzzing. He wanted to call short the interview so he could go and celebrate with the fans, and that, I think, when we look at where we were with Johnny, and I still think back to that meeting in the summer where he was hammered
Yeah.
for his performance. A lot of people were saying that he should go. At the moment, I think he's probably one of the safer managers in League
Mm.
Two.
Yeah.
The league manager merry-go-round, and I for one, am really happy that we've finally got, Neil Ardley done 6 years. I'm not saying Johnny's going to do 6 years because you never know in football, but for him to do 2 seasons now and finally getting some stability, obviously, Terry Skiverton, Craig Cope, brought Dave Renson in. That side of it, I really feel is just as important as the team out on the pitch at the moment.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. But you talk about a team on the pitch, there's somebody we haven't mentioned yet, which is Callum Maycock. And I just want to say, as you said, Stu, the emotion of the second goal, I think I might have celebrated the second goal more than I actually celebrated the winner last season, potentially.
Really?
Because of do you know what it was? I think it was just the release of tension at that moment because we were penned back, we were clearing our lines, but the ball was just coming straight back at us. And then
Yeah.
we got a break, and when he puts it away emphatically, and you've won the game and beaten them again. And that was a fantastic moment. Maycock was brought on to replace the injured Jake Reeves. There were two negatives from the day. One, as you've already referenced, the 12:30 kickoff, could do without that, but that's what happens with this fixture. Gonna have to get used to it. It's not going to change, I don't think. And the other one was the injury to Jake Reeves, thanks to their lot's number 8 leaving something in on him on the halfway line. I don't know if you've had any word just yet about the extent of the injury, but he was struggling to walk off the bench down the tunnel at the end of the game.
Yeah, he's on
So I'm not
crutches.
okay.
He was on crutches.
Oh,
He had the right ump as well. It's funny. I'm fortunate enough to be around the tunnel and stuff, and I did wind up Jake afterwards and said he reminded me of Omar when he threw off his tape and his sim pads, and because that's what Omar. I always say when Omar comes off, he takes off his bandage, doesn't he, and
yeah.
sort of leaves it on the pitch. And yeah, Jake was on and said he was really unhappy because he was playing well.
Yeah, he was.
Um,
Yeah.
and it was an injury where he was caught late. Whether it's deliberate or not, who knows? I think them two have played together at Stevenage.
Yeah.
Um, so I
Charlton, he was at Charlton as well with Johnny Jackson, wasn't he?
yeah,
Their
yeah,
lad.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You're right. He's a very volatile, good player, but a volatile player. But then that's a
I'll come out and
midfield.
say it, Stu. He's a dickhead.
Yeah. But I think they were from what I left. It was I think they were just looking to see the bruising coming out of it. I think I think he just rolled his ankle.
Mm.
But do you know what? Initially, I was really up. I'm unhappy that he didn't take it off because when we listened, if I think back to last season, we lost Jake and my little in one game, didn't we?
Yeah, true.
And it really killed our season. And I know it sounds silly, but actually, I didn't think. I thought the substitution was probably I'd have brought on James Ball. And I
I
think
think
that's what
James.
a lot of people thought.
I think James Ball thought that as well. Okay, we'll just leave that one there.
Yeah, but Joe, I want to see them unhappy that they're not coming on. I think
True.
that's a really good thing, isn't it? When they just accept it, you're like, well, why are you accepting it? You should want to. But yeah, Callum was. Hey, look, he's a really quiet character.
Mm.
Hey, look, do you know what? Them goals, right? When they hit the back of the net with that pace and ferocity, what that
Yeah.
word?
Yeah.
There's something about those goals, like
Yeah.
that was a winning goal, and it was just slammed home at the home end. They are just iconic
Mm.
moments, aren't they? And
Yeah.
also, he managed to do a volley after it
I
into the same net.
know.
Like, if you're going to crown it in terms of any footage that's going to be seen,
Yeah.
I'm really pleased with him. He's a really quiet lad. A lot of them talk really highly of him in the squad. And him and Josh Kelly, I know Josh Kelly done a step over or missed it, one of the two. But it's gone to the third goal. Them two doubled up really, really well.
Yeah.
I know Josh Kelly's had a bit part to the season, but he's still an important player for us.
Very talented player, actually, Josh, I think. And you saw that, as you say, the interplay with the third goal was outstanding. But I mean, there's so many things to say about this game. We have spoken about it for quite a while, but we're going to be talking about it for a long time, I feel, to come.
Yeah, and I think
Certainly until January.
and I think we go back to reference it quite a lot. If we're going to have the season I think we want to have, that's no matter who, they are one of the promotion favourites. That's a big statement. That's a big statement. And, we've got probably 2 or 3 weeks of really important games, some big, some not so big, home advantage. If we are going to really put ourselves in amongst the promotion, it's a big month for us. So we could come back and go, that was a launch pin for our season, hopefully.
Hopefully not for them, but their manager, I believe, has now departed. I think he's gone up to Carlisle now. So that's
Yeah, he tried to get
before
as
he got
far.
sacked.
Was trying to get as far away as possible from them. Do you know what? Yeah, I love the fact that they. Hey, look, it's very difficult when you got as a club you hate them, right? There's no doubt about that. But he comes across as a very respectful person, and you don't like to see anyone lose their job. But he jumped. He had a good. I think it was Gateshead that he did really well at before.
Okay.
So maybe he was just homesick or just sick of Milton Keynes. Probably both.
Probably both.
But Carlisle was an easy. I think, Joe, what? Stay in the game, have a job. That's a good thing. And I think there's a lot of high-profile names around that other job, which is natural. But yeah, he got away. And Carlisle aren't doing as well. Hey, look, it's the old come down from League One and just sink. Like I was watching them, and they've still got like Charlie Wyke up front for them and
Yeah, he
Carlisle.
scored a couple of goals on the weekend.
So they're not a rubbish side, but it just shows that it just shows you momentum, doesn't it, and what it can do to you.
Yeah, momentum is a key word. We are running late.
That's sounding great.
There we go. And we're a little bit behind schedule. I don't know what time you make it, Stu, but I think it's time to talk on some perhaps not as fun issues. Don's Trust SGM, Monday
Yeah.
night. And you had a very long day on Monday. And the key takeaway is the 5 resolutions that were called all failed. And we'll get into why that was. But before we do, your experience of Monday, what you were doing, and what time you got home.
Oh yeah. I've volunteered to stream for ages, and I always go back to the first time we streamed. It was the famous December 2000.
Oh,
If you're ever gonna start something, don't start it at the most pivotal meeting ever.
got to be starting something.
Yeah, so obviously you and I were doing a lot of stuff unofficial, weren't we, and stuff, and we helped out at Don's Trust and continued from there. So one of the reason I do it is because I appreciate people can't get to Plough Lane or Kings Meadow back then, and it's just a way of bringing that to people at home. Yeah, it was a long day. It was a 3.5 hour meeting. It was long. I think from my takeaways from it was interesting how many people turned up. Obviously, we've just enhanced our members with the season ticket inclusion.
So juvenile of me. Sorry. Sorry, I couldn't hold that in. Sorry. As you were.
Yeah, so we've increased that now. So you had 700 people that had to provide the 10% signatures to get the SGM. It was always interesting to know how many of those would turn up. But also, this is the first meeting where we've had a considerable increase in our membership. So it was good to see probably 150, 200 in a room, which is good for those meetings. And a lot of new people, younger people. Online, I think we had about 150. And we normally go around about 70, 80 people. So there was definitely, so it's difficult to know whether there was an increase because of the increased membership or the resolutions or mixture of both on that side of it. The meeting was long. The first resolution took 90 minutes. And I felt a lot of talk was around technical stuff in terms of the Constitution. This is probably where we're going to center the stuff. The Constitution hasn't been changed, from my understanding, since we started in 2002. It doesn't even include online voting because back then hybrid wasn't. So it gives you an idea of it's old, it's archaic, but it's a meaty thing to do. So the 5 resolutions were little bits of the Constitution to change. Now, part of the Constitution is proxy votes can be gifted to the chair. So that's basically where it went. So if you look on online, I think there was a high percentage, like high 90s in the room. There was very few that voted no, or a few abstained. And after the first 90 minutes of the first resolution, that sort of covered the conversation for the others. So the others went quite quickly. But the disappointing side of it is, and this is, I think it's very important not to slaughter individuals or make it personal, because I think that's when it becomes a little bit dangerous. But ultimately, the Don's Trust Board chair had the proxies. And no matter what had happened, cumulative in terms of votes in the room and online, the chair had the overriding vote.
Yeah.
And that was used on all the votes, and all of them failed. And that's their right. That's the chair's right. And it's not as if it hasn't happened before. So let's not say this is the first chair to use their proxy being gifted to them. However, it just shows you the Constitution. And that's where we are. So that's what we have. That's the Constitution. But the Don's Trust Board at the moment feel like they're banging their head against a brick wall, and the fans are not happy. But I don't know if it's I don't know about you, Nick, but I don't know if they're not happy about the board. I think they're just a little. I think people are anxious about this time. We've got 2 Plough Lane bonds to pay in the next 3 years. And we're coming up to that time where we've got a lot of fans that are new. So we doubled our average attendance. We want to progress. We're just talking, the first 10, 15 minutes of this is about how we can push up the league. But that's nothing if we haven't got the financial backing and the plan behind the scenes to get that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it was a long evening for nothing. However, if the Constitution, we understand, is being updated, it's not a quick job, but that should hopefully help us moving forward.
Yeah, rewriting the Constitution is not a quick job whatsoever. But you're right, I agree. The context of all this is the finances that we're going to come on to very, very shortly. As you say, all 5 resolutions failed because essentially the chairman voted against used his proxy votes to vote against them all. I've got a little bit of distance with the whole thing at the moment, Stuart. I think we've discussed previously. It becomes very, very difficult for me as well at this time of year when you go back to school and it's a chaotic first few weeks, but from a little bit of distance, it feels very them and us.
Yep.
That's the feeling I get. There seems to be a lot of antipathy between sort of groups. It seems to be mainly pitched against those that raise these resolutions and those currently sitting on the Don's Trust board. And as I say, I know you're saying it's nothing that seems to be in any way personal or directed really at the individuals on the board, but you read things on social media and you're aware of what's going on, and that comes across that way. Um, is that am I reading it right?
No, no, that's how it felt. That's how it felt, and that's why I'm really. Hey, look, do you know what? The Don't Trust board are there to represent the fans that elected them onto the board. Now, I know there's
Mm,
contention that some are not elected because we've had uncontested elections,
mm,
but that's our fault as fans. Ultimately, I've said this many times, and we'll come on to it with the Graeme Price podcast. We're the owners. We are the owners of the club, whether we like it or not. We're the owners, and we talk about bad owners and we talk about good owners, and we all love to highlight the bad owners, but we have to be good owners as well and make sure we see what's in front of us, work and support the people that are. I heard a few people saying to me, "Oh, the Don Trust Board keep on saying that they're volunteers and how hard it is." Well, they're not lying. That is it. They are.
mm,
When you see them at a Don Trust meeting like that, that's not the only thing they do. I was involved in a meeting they had Wednesday night, where they were there for a long time, where I joined them for a very short period just to go through the technical side of the online stream.
right.
But I think they were in a 4 or 5 hour meeting.
Mm,
Um, they do a lot of hours, and one, it burns them out because they're firefighting.
yeah.
Two, they've got the pressure of the fans. So when people are going, "You're lying," or "This is crazy," or "You're using all your proxy votes," we're fighting against our own people.
Mm,
And that's the bottom line of it. If we don't work together, then we're going to have a them and us. And I think I agree with you on that. That's not healthy. It's not
no.
healthy. So I think we just have to. I think we have to come together. And look, I'm not saying that everyone should volunteer. I'm not saying everyone should be on the board or should be doing this or working in parties. But do you know what? I see the hours they do. They care. If they make wrong decisions, they don't do it because they're vindictive. They just do it because that's how they feel
Mm,
they should do it. But we've got to be careful because I would be amazed if there's a contested elections coming up in December.
yeah.
I've said outwardly, I would go, not that I would think I'd get on, but I'd go nowhere near that board. Really wouldn't. The work they have to do, the pressure they're going to have, the period of time, you're coming up to restricted actions on the 50+1, you're coming up to the first lot of bond payments being paid, and then you've got 2 years later, another lot being paid.
Yeah.
What a time to be on the board. And that's just before anything else comes up.
Yeah.
So all I'm saying is it's easy to moan, it's easy to throw things at them and verbally and stuff, but we've got to get our people to get their hands dirty because ultimately we need a strong board. And I'd rather have a contested election where you have a choice rather than it's just the people that have the time or brave enough to go on and fulfill the role.
Yeah, but as you say, finding that time is immensely difficult. I don't know where people get the time or the energy to do it. I'm impressed by those that do, and I wish them well. But I think also part of this is we are victims in this regard of our own success. The Don's Trust
Yep.
Board that was elected in 2003, for example, when I first remember seeing election posters stuck up on the roof of the athletic stadium at King Meadow, completely like that, like taking a combined counties league team, a giant combined counties league team, but still a combined counties league team and club,
Yep.
to a multi-million pound business in the football league. The two roles, and I imagine the amount of time and things you have to put in is, oh man, night and day.
And do you know what's interesting actually saying that? There was a lot of former Don's Trust board members in the audience, some that I haven't
Mhm.
seen for ages. So the resolution was definitely got people interested. Um,
Mm.
but like I say, I'm just trying to think at the top of my head. There was loads actually of ex-members, Lou Carlton Kelly, who was bless her, was chatting to her. She made me laugh. They were all talking. I don't know if you noticed, but when they introduced themselves, they started introducing themselves with their Don's Trust board number,
Yes.
and I think the lowest we had was 40.
Oof.
Right, and it seemed like a contest of can anyone else? And when Lou chatted, I think she said that she was in the 40s, but she would have been number one, but she gave that to Ivor because she didn't want that hassle. Um, but
I think she said she was number 70, I think, because I was disappointed that it wasn't 69.
But I think she said she could have had number one, but she gave it to Ivor.
Yeah.
But what you have to also remember, these people are older now. And I'm not just saying Lou's older. She knows she's older because we're all older. Dig yourself out
Oh,
that one.
well,
Dig yourself.
it's eclipsed anything else we've ever had on this podcast.
But what I mean by that, right, is that when some of those people are on the board, they might have not had family or work commitments, and it's all about timings in life, isn't it? And I think that's where you've got now. You've got a lot of the older generation who had the fight and hunger to do that. Probably can't do that now in the bursts that need to be done. So we do need that younger new fan base to come in, and that's very difficult. That's very difficult. So interesting time for the Don's Trust board. Lots of stuff going on before we even get to the restricted actions, which was the elephant in the room. If we're being honest, that was the underlying concern about a lot of the resolutions.
So 50 plus one, as we've come to refer to it, as we spoke on the podcast with Jane Lonsdale and Charles Williams, 50.01 in effect is what it actually is, isn't it?
Yeah.
In terms of vote share and what have you. Something that is, I don't think I've seen anything concrete in regards to this just yet, but this was something that was raised on the actually 100% official AFC Wimbledon podcast with Aaron Paul and Graeme Price. Now, did he actually say, what did he go into? He says it's just on the horizon without going into too much depth, or is it just it's a compromise for trying to pay off debts and bonds as well as making sure that we don't lose overall control?
Yeah, Joe, I thought it was a really good interview with Graham. I was there with the recording actually because we recorded it before the Ipswich game from memory. Yeah, the Ipswich game. And I remember saying to Graham, like, if you can get this to sound exciting, you've done really well. I didn't think they'd do 10 minutes. They did 40 in the end. And that was also down to the excellent work from Aaron Paul, who really asked some really good questions, and Graham explained it. Financial people, and Graham wouldn't forgive me for saying this, sometimes are technical people and don't normally break it down into layman terms, but Graham made it very, very clear. And I would recommend people to listen to it. But Joe, there was loads of stuff that come out of it, but the most interesting thing I found was around the 50+1 and what it means. One thing that Graham said interestingly is basically it's voting rights. So when you're voting, the 100% is, if you own 100%, you own the vote majority. And in terms of voting rights, we own as Wimbledon 80% of them. So we control. So what he said at the time, we vote who goes onto the PLC, we vote who can kick them out, and we approve budgets. Now, to give you an idea, and I thought this was really good when Graham compared this. Exeter City is what we class as not a unique fan-owned club, but a fan-owned club that we feel is probably working well. When a lot of people adopt things from Exeter. Right. They actually own 58% of their voting rights.
Okay. So
it's not comparing, well, we own more than you do. We own 80%, but they are we class them as fan-owned.
Yeah.
And what Graham was saying was the Football Supporters Association view anyone that holds 50% or more votes as controlling.
Right, yeah.
Bottom line. All right. Yeah. So so when he looks at the 80%, interestingly, breakdown-wise, was that we have minority shareholders. So the 20% is made up of minority shareholders, people that we went back to Kings Meadow who put some bond payments in to help us tide us over there. Cedars is also around about 2% of it.
Yeah.
But we also have 3 what he called block shareholders, which are people like Nick Robertson. And we've got 2 overseas ones as well. And I think they hold a little bit more. So the 20% is made up of minority, really, and maybe single people. But the one thing that he was saying, he classed them as, which I'll be truthful, he made it a lot easier for me to understand. And I've been around it for a while, but not really understood. But he basically called it as, where is the wording? He called it as like a stewarding equity owner. Where is the wording that he had? Sorry. So basically what he classed it as, people like not Nick Robinson who put £2.5 million in, he classed it as stewardship equity.
Right, yeah.
And what he meant by that is they have involvement, they have influence, but they said they would never have complete control. That really broke it down for me. So, yes, Nick Robinson is on the PLC. He has a vote. He has 1 vote on the PLC. Don't forget the Don's Trust board have their own representatives on the PLC.
Yeah.
but it made it easier for me to break down what are we offering. So we've a recent Don Trust meeting we had allow for someone to have 15% as maximum ownership. So
Right.
if we reduce, so our 80% ownership we got, we brought it down to what we called a 50.1.
Mm-hmm.
It basically means that 30%, only no one can have more than 15%, so they can't have total control. But they effectively have what they call stewardship equity,
Yeah.
which is involvement. So it would be a place potentially on the PLC board. Um, but when you break it down, and I compare it to Exeter because that's a really good example.
Mm.
They have less ownership
Mm.
than we do, but they still own their club.
Mm.
So I felt from what Graeme was saying was actually this 50.1 isn't as scary as we make out.
No. Yes. Well, I would. We need to probably get someone on that is fearful of the 50.01 because I hear lots of things about this actually, Stu. I've never had a fear of it. We'll come back to that in a minute. But I hear things like, 50 plus 01, it's not even a thing. It's not a legal thing. There's no,
The German thing, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah, that doesn't exist in this country and stuff like that. But from what I'm reading, it's not, whatever the German model is, it's not, this seems unique to our situation. In fact, as you say, we're trust owned, but we're giving away a certain amount of voting rights, but we still keep, even if it's just by 0.1%, we still keep the majority of it.
Yeah.
So really, there's nothing. I don't understand. Someone's going to explain to me. Clearly, obviously, the restricted action is what prevents us from doing this at the moment, and we need to vote that down. But otherwise, it's perfectly legitimate thing that we can do to help us out, pay off a lot of debt that we've got to pay, still maintain ownership of AFC Wimbledon. What? Yeah, what's the problem? What am I missing?
Well, I think, Graham again mentioned some really good sound bites, which again were really good. So it was, it's basically said like there's no prospective people in the background that want to buy shares. So we haven't got anyone at the moment.
Lined
But
up. Okay.
that's probably obvious because people know that we're a fan-owned club. So
Yeah.
I can even two put your house in the market, no one knows you want to sell, in terms of that sort of side of it. But he did say that we've always been fantastic at moments of crisis, and the club is born on activism, which he's right. He's right. We've always reacted really well in adversity. But what he was saying, we've got to be better at fundraising, putting extra turnstiles in. Also said something about improving lights to make more of the pitch higher. So again, we're in prime location. You think about we've had women's international games at Plough Lane. We've had Ukraine play there. We've had Brentford B play there. I suppose what that is meaning is that we might have the potential of playing under 18 international fixtures and under 21s and
Hmm.
all revenue that can come in. So one thing he did say, it was saying, but despite the ticket resale, which we know has been challenging in terms of getting people to resell their tickets so
Yeah.
they can then come. It was saying like with the growth that we've got, potentially in 2 or 3 seasons, we might have a season ticket cap and even a waiting list for season tickets.
Wow. Blimey.
And when I heard that, I didn't disagree with that because we've said that, haven't we? We've got 4,500 season ticket holders on
Hmm.
a ground that holds 9,000, depending on segregation.
Hmm.
We are growing very, very quickly,
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
and it's not
There's no
stopping.
doubt.
It didn't stop when we were relegated, so it's only going to increase as you're more successful, isn't it?
Mm.
So it's something we have to, we definitely. And I think the idea of the equity is, I noticed at the Don Trust Don Trust meeting on Monday, there was a few people saying that they don't want anything to happen to the ground, don't want the ground to be used as a mortgage or a charge on it because that's dangerous. But ultimately, that is equity.
Mm.
And a lot of people talk about training grounds, building another stand. We're going to have to release equity in some way. So either we use the equity we got between the 80% sharing votes and the 50%, which then allows us to go, do you know what, for that part of equity, we will have X, Y, Z, and we use that because let's be fair, training ground wise, Lee Brown mentioned it to us on our podcast, didn't he, about the facilities not being
Yeah.
a great standard if we want to progress. So I think we're a bit wary of it all, but I thought it was a really good breakdown from Graeme. It made me understand things a lot better. But yeah, we need to get it done. I think we need to get voted through. It's not as scary as we make it out. But obviously Monday night and things like that do make it a little bit them against us, and we need all to be together to convince and make sure people are reassured that what we're doing isn't, destroying the club.
Mm. And I think we are a fantastic football club and a fantastic story. So in terms of attracting new investors, because I guess people are going to say, well, where are these people that are going to put in this money? I don't think we're going to have a problem highlighting them. I think people want to be involved with us. I mean, you see John Green and the money he puts into us, and I know he loves his little advertising on the shorts, but generally that's pretty much a benevolent act of his to put in the money that he does. And I think there'll be many more that just want to be a part of it. So
Let's be honest, right? We have a ground in Greater London, in a area that is really, really nice, and we have planned permission up to 20,000. We have a great story. We have a good fan base that is growing. Why would people not be interested? I mean, ultimately, if we ever went and sold out, and I've spoke before, I'm not against that. If I'm being honest with you, we are a really good proposition for anybody to buy us. Doesn't mean we go cap in hand to anybody, but I don't think there will be a shortage of people coming forward.
and as you say, Stu, and you've made a load of notes about the official podcast, the vital signs, apart from this debt and the bonds that we need to pay back, but the vital signs in terms of the day-to-day club and our revenue streams and our merchandising and things like that, they're all looking very, very healthy at this moment in time. So it seems like we, as you say, we're a pretty good bet at this moment in time.
The shop is dangerous. Matt is doing such a good job in there. I hate going in there because I always want to buy something.
Yeah, you have to clarify when you say the shop is dangerous. You're not going to walk in and be attacked by sharks or anything
well,
like that.
you're just going to be attacked by merchandise that you want to buy.
Jurassic Parker.
Yeah, there is so much stuff. He's got, and hey, look, I know Matt well, but even if I didn't, I would be praising him. The different lines of gear. Sound wrong, but
oh wow. Okay, let's clarify what you mean when you say that very quickly.
Well, trading gear and
Right,
just the merchandise that he has is just brilliant. I'm not surprised that our sales from that are really, Graeme compared us to Swindon Town. He'd done a comparison and said, our revenues are so much higher than comparable clubs in there. So, hey, look, that's really good. It costs me money, which I hate, and I have to then ask the wife if I'm allowed to buy anything because I've probably bought too much anyway. But we're not. Hey, look, we're not in a bad place. We just need to grow, and that's part of it. None of us, you and I, don't want to stay. We don't want to stay in League Two. No one wants. No one does. I don't go the other way, bearing that. But it's about. I don't know about you, but I looked at League One, and some of the teams in there, I look and go, they're no better than us.
No.
Could we compete in that league?
Yes.
Right? Yeah, we won't get 30,000 at St Andrews on a Monday night. As the Americans did. Did you see that? Like, I'm not.
No, I ignored that completely.
David Beckham. It's just like, oh my days. It's Birmingham. Has anyone ever been to St Andrews? Like,
yeah,
seriously,
it's a shithole.
Like, don't just develop the ground. Develop. I'm going to probably upset people in Birmingham now. Just develop the city. That would help. Anyway, let's move on.
I don't care about upsetting people from Birmingham. Sorry, Liam Kelly and Craig probably actually, and Callum Maycock. But you know what? Just knock the whole of Birmingham city centre down. Start over. Let's be honest with you. It desperately needs it. Same for many places around the United Kingdom. Not just Milton Keynes, but obviously Watford and Crawley and Newport. Yeah,
and if you wanna get a ticket for Aston Villa in the Birmingham area, go and remortgage your house or sacrifice eating or something like that. The prices, wow. Unbelievable.
Don't get me started, Stu, because I will go on a rant about the state of English football again, and we haven't got time. We are running so late. Something that a prospective investor into AFC Wimbledon might want to be a part of is the 106.58% unofficial AFC Wimbledon podcast, chiefly because of our wonderful game. My father was a John Joe O'Toole maker. And Stu, we're going to have another round of this now.
Cool.
Before that, I should tell you, I went into the pet shop the other day. I spoke to the guy behind the counter. I was like, have you got a mouse trap? And he said, yeah. I said, can you hurry up? I've got a train to catch. I was like, I don't think we've got any that big. Clue number one.
Yes.
Cryptic clue.
Oh dear.
For this former Wimbledon player. A useful king despite his crown. A useful king despite his crown. Thank you very much to everyone that's contacted us, by the way, that have got the answers on the cryptic clue for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I don't believe them.
let us know. Yeah, I'm very confident they do. But this time, any chance?
This is something connected with Newcastle as well, or just Wimbledon?
I have gone for Newcastle this week, Stu.
Yes.
Not Bradford.
No, no one. Well, who would play
Are we
with
talking about?
Bradford and
Are
us?
we talking about cities that need knocking down?
Yeah. Um, the King, I have no idea who played for Newcastle and Wimbledon. I would only go for Warren Barton.
Not Warren Barton. This potential player.
Oh, Andy
This,
Thorne.
why Andy Thorne?
I don't know, because King, Queen. Don't if you're a Queen, don't you get a thing in like those hats with thorns in or stuff? I have no idea.
Do you know what you have actually got there? I'm not entirely sure how. But why Andy Thorne? Kings,
Well, because I
Queens.
know you played for Newcastle and Wimbledon.
Well, there wasn't many to be fair.
And I just felt no, when you talked about kings crowns, I always thought like isn't it like Games of Thrones where they have that sort of like holly hat on their head?
There we go. Yeah, the crown of thorns
Hey, here
that
we are.
perhaps Jesus or perhaps Julius Caesar may have worn. But yeah, it was Andy Thorne, a useful king because he's handy, useful,
Uh,
handy, and then despite a bad crown would be a crown of thorns. Oh well, that's it. Done. Thank you. Well done. You got it on the cryptic clue.
yeah. See, do you know what? The funny thing is, right? My memory is an awful lot better on players of yesteryear than they are of current years. So what I mean by that is like I could no, like what I mean by that, right, is I was watching through the Newcastle. So I'm doing some highlights on the Newcastle for Don's TV feature.
Right.
And I can remember the moves. So for some of these goals, I'm like, oh yeah, he crossed it in, it was a bottom left hand corner.
Hmm.
I remember that. You asked me why we scored a goal last season against Fleetwood. Well, we didn't play him
We
last year,
didn't
so I
play them.
can't.
So it would be
Damn,
quite easy to
you're
remember
off
that.
too. But you asked me like I don't know, random go against Notts County. I might struggle. I'm just realizing I look my lighting is very. No one can see us online live. They can't because we're not
No,
showing
because
it
we're not
live.
broadcasting this live.
I literally am in the dark.
Um, yeah, I think we've gone late when we start getting into these realms now. Okay, the
Yeah.
words are not coming as quickly as they perhaps should. But yeah, so that was well done. Thank you everyone for listening to John Joe Toolmaker this week. Next week we're not going to preview the Newcastle game because we do have an actual important game at Valley Parade to get through beforehand.
Yeah.
We will go into that one in a bit more detail. So Bradford City, who we didn't actually score against last season, we lost 1-0 at Plough Lane and we drew 0-0 at Valley Parade. They
Yes.
finished ninth in the end, just 2 points outside the playoffs. This season, they've won 3, drawn 1, and lost 2. Last week, they lost 2-1 at Warsaw, but always difficult to travel across, isn't it? International weekend, so they were obviously abroad in Poland. Unbeaten at home this season, though. Bradford have not lost at home so far. Our record, we've actually drawn the last 3 visits to Valley Parade, actually 0-0, 2-2, and 0-0. But we've had some up and down results at Valley Parade over the years as AFC Wimbledon. You'll remember, obviously, or even going back to the old WFC, you'll remember the famous 3-0 defeat in 2000. Never going to forget that afternoon. We've had a 5-1 defeat in the league. We've had a 4-0 win at Bradford, and we've got a last day
We did.
escape as well. So, strange collection of results. They've got 3 players I want to just highlight very quickly. 4, actually. Anthony Sarcevic was their big summer signing from Stockport, but he is injured.
That's good.
They've got Smallwood, Cook, and Poynton. I point these out for various reasons. Smallwood, because he's a good player, scores goals. Paul Cook still scoring goals somehow. Scored a couple in their win a couple of weeks ago. And Bobby Poynton, only because I wonder if he is the son of Neil Poynton, the former Oldham Athletic defender.
The
Who I
one with
saw.
the moustache, didn't he? Didn't he have like a dodgy moustache?
I don't remember a moustache. I remember like a perm sort of
Oh,
hairstyle, maybe.
that Oldham team all had perms, didn't they? Like, was it
Oh, yes,
Ian
Ian
Marshall?
Marshall.
I saw something the other day when they were talking about the old upsets they had. They had a plastic pitch, didn't they, up at Oldham?
Oh, did they really? Okay.
Yeah, I remember for one of the years I was always watching Sports Night. That's how far back we're going.
Yeah.
And they were always on it on the cup games because they'd done so well in the cup competitions under Joe Royal from
Joe
memory.
Royal, yeah.
Which is interesting. Anyway, we digress. Joe, as I was saying earlier about important games before and after cup games, this is probably another one where we've got Newcastle on the Tuesday night.
Wednesday.
Is it Wednesday? No, it's Tuesday, isn't it?
It's Wednesday, isn't it? It's 24th. Oh, no, hold on. 24th is Tuesday. Oh,
It's because
it's getting to that hour. I've gone.
It's because Ipswich played on Wednesday night. So you think the Carabao Cup is Wednesday night cup.
You know what? In my head, I've been going Wednesday night for Newcastle all this time, and I know the 24th is actually a Tuesday. But anyway, ignore me, listeners.
So it's one of those, isn't it? It's one of those where I'm not saying that anyone's going to hold out of tackles because they want to be fit for Newcastle, but it is one of those things that you tend to go on about. So I think it's a really important game. I don't see us losing, if I'm being honest with you. Bradford, I'm not surprised we've had a hit and miss against them because due to the sort of the size of the ground and the club, they are very much a up and down sort of club. Do you know what I mean? Like they had a very good end. They had a very good end to the season last year, but their fans always expect more because of their stature and size. But I don't think we'll lose there. Wouldn't be surprised to come away with a draw.
I will take a draw because I don't think we have had a draw in the league yet. So we are probably law of averages due. But
Yep.
updates will be on Twitter at 9YRS Podcast as always. That probably brings us to the end of this podcast this week, Stu. We've not really looked around League Two. It still seems far too early, if I'm being honest with you.
No, we're fourth in the table.
We are we?
Fourth from what I've just seen on.
Oh, I thought, okay. Well,
I thought we were
okay.
fifth, but it's
I
showing
thought we were
fourth.
fifth.
It's showing fourth on my table that I've got on one of my trusted websites.
Is it because we are actually
No, it's
joined on?
plus 5. We're seniority because we got A.
That's what I was going to say.
against Walsall.
Some put us down as Wimbledon, which comes below Walsall alphabetically, and some have us as AFC Wimbledon, which comes above. So what the league does at the end of the season when we finish level on everything with Walsall, we'll find out.
Well, officially we're called AFC Wimbledon, so we go up.
Officially, we are AFC Wimbledon.
If it ever come to that. But
could you imagine?
No, but do you know what? There is interesting fixture-wise. Notts County versus Gillingham this weekend, I think. Yes, Notts County are home to Gillingham, so big top of the table clash.
Notts County and Gillingham is the one to look out for. I must admit, I haven't actually looked this week because too many other things going on.
It's just Newcastle, isn't it?
Still,
it's all about Newcastle.
Well, I'm still basking in the glow of last Saturday, you see. So I haven't really looked ahead too far, to be honest, because it was all about smashing the franchise.
And will they wear their black and white kit?
Do you know what, Stu? To prove my point about this, if they don't, we're going to have several thousand people that are going to be a bit pissed off. Because when you play Newcastle, you want to see Newcastle, and that is black and white stripes.
Can I just say, anyone watching the Man City versus Inter Milan game, Champions League,
don't get me.
Man City wore a kit which looked like they had bibs on. It was a really weird kit. I think it's a European kit.
Yeah.
Because everyone should have a European kit. Like I'm sure next season Matt will get us a Carabao Cup kit or an FA Cup kit. I'm sure that's where we're heading. But the funny thing is that the linesmen or the officials were also wearing yellow, and one of the Man City players actually passed to the linesman, and he wasn't a player.
No, thanks for clarifying that one. This is the kit that is inspired by the front cover of the Oasis album. Definitely, maybe.
Oh, is that the link? I heard an Oasis link, but I couldn't quite work out where that was from.
Yeah, the reasons why they've done this remain a complete mystery, except to say, how much money do you need, Man City? You've got a whole nation state behind you, but whatever.
Well, they might need it in League Two if they get relegated.
Yeah, we can.
Let's go to the Etihad for a League Two fixture.
We can hope it won't be called the Etihad anymore. I'll tell you that much. If they are relegated in League Two,
yeah. Main Road. I don't know where it is. It's in Manchester.
Eastlands is is what they used to call it, and yes, you do see it as you get the train into Manchester. You can see it from the train, but we're not. I don't know why we're talking about Manchester City.
No.
We've got to move on. I want to finish up on a high, Stu. So I just want to very much repeat what we said earlier. We smashed the franchise. It was a glorious day, and can I just say, hey, look, Stu, the world is going to come to an end very, very shortly. All right, we know this. The end of days is upon us, but we must enjoy the good times when they come, and that was a very, very good time. And the beauty of football is, despite all the nonsense that goes with it these days, what comes to it and what should come for it is community coming together to get behind a united goal and to lose yourself in that for 90 minutes. And I think we can all say for that 90 minutes we were totally lost in that game and in those emotions and in that moment.
Agree.
So, happy days. Everyone at the club should be very, very proud. I hate Milton Keynes.
And what I just very quickly say is that Gray Coat is obviously an honorary Wimbledon fan now. I think he absolutely loves it. He actually got a selfie taken over the far side with the scoreboard at 3-0. And do you know what? I absolutely loved that he did that because it just highlighted he's fully fallen in love with this club and he knows what that game means. And I think he will cherish that result. And also, two of his signings for Solihull were involved in the last two goals.
Yeah, I think I'm sure he's made a lot of people very aware of that as well. But anyway, thank you very much. As John Green says, Stu, do you know what? Of all the unimportant things in life, football is the most important. And I think that was summed up massively this weekend. Anyway, thank you very much for listening. We've gone very, very long. Thank you for sticking out with us. We will be back next week. Alexa Bliss, bag first, milk last. 2 + 2 = 4. We smashed the franchise.